You're listening to the Unsung Podcast, where we talk about classic albums and decide if they deserve that distinction. And we also talk about some unsung classics in the hopes of bringing them to a new audience. And at the end of it all, we let you decide if we were right or wrong. This is the Unsung Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Unsung Podcast. This is episode 7, and on this episode we are talking about Ease by Joanna Newsom. And we will get into that record, of course, in just a moment. But before we do that, I'm sure you guys are absolutely dying to know the outcome of last week's vote. Well, last week, as fans may know, we spoke about Mr. Beast by Mogwai. The contention, of course, being that, is this the definitive Mogwai record? If one Mogwai record is going to go into our discography, is it this one? So we asked you if you think that Mr. Beast should be the one that represents Mogwai, and I've got to say this is the closest vote that we have yet had, and the answer is yes. Mr. Beast by Mogwai does indeed make it into our discography of all-time classic albums, so welcome Mogwai, it's really great to have you. But if you disagree, then man, that's on you. Like, you could have swayed it if you didn't think this was our best record, but alas, let's not commiserate, let's celebrate, because Mr. Beast is a worthy addition to our discography. So thank you very much to everybody who voted. We love that you are interacting with what we are doing. It gives us a warm fuzzy feeling inside to know that. So let's crack on as we talk about the 7th record that is going to be nominated for our discography, hopefully. And this is Ease by Joanna Newsom.
The lines are fading in my kingdom, though I have never known a way to border on it.
I am your host, Mark Fraser, otherwise known as the Curator, and I'm joined by two interesting gentlemen.
To my right is Mr. Chris Cusack, who is, I've heard, has actually bought 45 tickets for every day of Transmit Festival so far. He's taken his entire extended family.
Except one, when I bought 90.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that the Killers?
You're really excited for that, aren't you?
I played a big part in it. So
The cultural event of the summer.
I want it to sell out, so I feel everybody should buy 45 tickets each, so it has a chance. Okay. Yeah, to my left is David John Weaver, a man who I've only recently buried the hatchet with after severe fallout relating to DJ Shadow. But we're back in talking terms. We're wearing each other's shoes, generally hanging about a bit more, and it's all good.
Just in time as well.
I know, perfect.
Justin Timberlake.
Oh dear, I need to get my notes, hang on.
Did you just say Justin Timberlake?
I did. Yeah.
Great.
Puns, we got them.
Thanks.
So this week, Mark, we're going to be doing Ease by Joanna Newsom, and you need your notes for that.
I really do.
Was that about 8 words?
I've had some thoughts. I did some thinking.
Busy week.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I guess Chris, it's your choice, so let's get the ball rolling. Why?
This is very much my choice. I don't think I'm exaggerating. This is definitely one of my favourite records. Full stop. Like, I think this is a really, really excellent album. Joanna Newsom, kind of know who Joanna Newsom is, I'm assuming. As to why this album stands out, I didn't pick Milk-Eyed Mender. Well, that's been a bone of contention. And then on the flip side of that, a few of my other friends are outraged that I didn't pick Have One on Me. Nobody seems particularly outraged that I didn't pick 15 Divers, which is bad news for Joanna, seeing as it's her most recent album. But this record is so ambitious, like so completely. How can I put it? Like she set out to do something that was eccentric with Milk-Eyed Mender and the EPs before it, and she was doing something that was, there was a lot of kind of kooky, twee sort of like solo acts, especially solo female acts, but there were a couple of male acts as well. Devendra Banhart was kind of like a bit like that as well. But she exponentially went for it on this album from her first one. Her first one to me is relatively unremarkable, other than a couple of really strong tracks. It passes me by, and at times it's really grating. And there's a song in it called, is it Peach Plum Pear?
Yeah.
That is just, there's a couple of bits in that are just like, they came on recently when I was listening to it again, and I was like swatting the earbuds out my ears like I was getting attacked by bees. It was just horrendous, and it kind of made me realise how much of a departure this was. I was introduced to this by my friend Robbie, and so I'm probably the only person that also associates this with fajitas, because I was making us dinner before a night out at Stirling University, which we coincidentally mentioned on the last podcast. We were going to sneak into the student union, and so Robbie was like, I'm going to put this on in the background while we're making this. And there's very few times I can honestly say I've been so distracted by going, what is this? And then him tell me, oh, that's this. Well, I was like, I thought she didn't do stuff like that. And I mean,
for me, that seems like a really weird background music album to put on.
Absolutely. Anyway, so to get to the point though, I mean, it's only 5 tracks. They're long tracks. It's incredibly proggy. I mean, I think they called it various things. I think some of them were like psychedelic folk, neo folk, freak folk, loads of like key changes, weird timings, just loads of really, really eccentric arrangements. Plus, she plays harp predominantly. Mm-hmm. It was a real departure. It really, really caught me off guard. And then I listened to it a lot on the back of that to try and understand where it was coming from. I thought it was quite challenging and found it really rewarding once I undertook that. Maybe it's slightly unfair because our later albums are also kind of in similar vein, and they're really challenging and they're really multi-layered, and the more you get into them, the more there is. But I don't think she's ever quite matched the ambition of this record, or like the poetry of this record, or the melody of this record. I mean, to me it's just it's a beautiful piece of work.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are your thoughts?
I mean, so this was a fairly new record for me. I'd kind of knew Joanna from a girl I used to go out with, was just a massive fan, and she'd put it on vinyl like sometimes, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, but never, I don't know, maybe I don't think she'd ever put this on in the background, so I'd never like had that listening, making fajitas, going, what the fuck is this? So I'd never like sort of just sat down and listened to it. So when we decided we were going to do this record, it's been a whole experience of getting lost in it, and yeah, it's ambitious. That's the key word for me, and for me, I think she fucking nails it, because it's, what do you compare it to?
Other than more Joanna Newsom.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, like, I went back to Kate Bush a lot. I know that. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Bits of Tori Amos as well.
Well, like, just in terms of like the soundscapes of the whole record, or just something else, it's just so much going on, winding in and out of each other. I went back and like listened to a lot of like her sort of whole back catalogue, and the one that actually stuck out for me was her first EP. Was it Walnut Wales?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and like I really liked that because it was really sparse, like sort of lo-fi, and it was just like her and her harp. And then this album, like a lot of the other stuff is like,
apparently she was touring. I think it was that EP she was touring with a guy, Will Oldham.
Oh yeah,
he introduced her to folk at Drag City.
Ah, cool.
Something like that. So she ended up getting signed.
I don't know, because like the first album like included like some tracks from that EP, and was just like a better produced version of that. Yeah. But I like the lo-fi thing of Walnut Wales. But then this album just came out. Like, sometimes I just hate overproduced stuff unless it's fucking ambitious, and it's like, right, they've just gone and spent 6 months in the studio and gone absolutely fucking mental.
See, talking about the production, one of the things that, as a total, alternative kid, one of the things that really sold this to me was the fact that they'd taken a chance with the producer. It was Steve Albini that recorded the vocals and the harp, and I like that. I like that kind of like crossing boundaries. It's like when Godspeed worked with Albini as well. It's like, it's nice to hear people bringing influences in from completely different areas, or not completely different, but relatively different areas of music, because they appreciate what that person gets out of it. And then she got the arrangements done by a guy called Van Dyke Parks,
who's incredible.
Yeah, who'd done some pretty amazing stuff, like was it 71, 72, something like that. He did.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Like that's pretty inspired kind of team building in itself, I think, and there's applause merited just for like not playing safe and not going for the usual suspects, putting something together that's quite unusual. And I think it really benefits from those, from real thought being put into who was going to work on it in that sense.
The thing I like about this record the most is it is pure punk as fuck in its approach. It gives no fucks, which is great. I mean, she gave, I would say, even less fucks previously, but
especially on Peach Pump Air. But
it's like becoming like everything that you would. It's how I'm unfamiliar with her. Like, I've only had this record, but it's how I'd imagine an artist going, you know what, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and it doesn't matter.
The Sheraton with artless hustling, but Ursula, we've got to eat something and learn our keep while still within the borders of the land that men has girded all double bolted.
Well,
That's why I like this record.
it's an interesting thing that after this record, some people took issue with her next material because they felt her voice had changed, and I was kind of looking into that a bit because they were like, oh, she's gone a lot more commercial, she's less eccentric. But it seems that there was a period for about 2 months where she got nodules, and like couldn't speak or sing for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And when she came back from that, I don't know if it was to further protect her voice or if it was just simply because she couldn't get the same tone out of it again. But it seems like her singing has sort of changed since then, and maybe that also this is a sweet spot for me in terms of her still having that sort of original range and approach, but it just been a bit more refined than it was on the Milk Eyed Mender. And then she went through that thing where she got the nodules, and it's not, I don't know if I wouldn't say it's worse, it's certainly slightly different now. But there's still some of her nicest songs are on Have One On Me. It's just the album is way too long. It's like far too long, and if it had been cut down, it could have been maybe the match of this if it had been cut down to one amazing album. But it just loses its momentum, and it's hard to get through it with the same sort of sustained level of quality as when you listen through this. To kind of come at this in a bit more of a constructive way, I would say that what really, like looking at my own motivations for why this album is so important, it really is largely propped up by that 17 and a half minutes of Only Skin, which I think is just, it's genuinely one of the best songs I've ever heard, and it's massive.
And my waking heart spoke, and there was a silence you took to mean something. Run, sing, for alive you will evermore be. And the plague of the greasy black engines a skulking has gone east, while you left to explain them to me.
And it's first of all, I don't understand how she remembers the lyrics, let alone all the harp parts. It's pretty staggering to play 20 minutes of that many notes and say that many words. And we'll come back to the lyrics, because I think lyrically she is as accomplished a poet at points as she is a musician. I'm kind of indifferent to a lot of lyricism. She's a writer that her lyricism is just phenomenal, and that song in particular has so many lines that do reach out and kind of squeeze your heart just a wee bit. And kind of once I got really deeply into that song, working backwards to appreciate it was Emily, the first track, which is named after a sister who sings in it as well, I believe. And then kind of going to Cosmia and Monkey and Bear, and kind of moving around Only Skin to try and like get into the rest of the material and have that as a reference point. But I don't think she's ever done anything better than Only Skin. I think there's multiple points in that song where you do feel that little lift in your chest, like your car's just gone over a bump and you're just in midair for half a second, and this is a really astonishing achievement, that bit of music, and that alone propels this album beyond anything else she's done.
Yeah. What is astonishing is that a record exists that proves Chris Cusack has emotions, which is something else.
It's a very emotive record, Her voice is supremely emotive, and the way all the songs sprawl and unfold is just, it is pure magic.
Yeah.
And Van Dyke Parks.
Van Parks Dyke. There's so many variations.
There is very.
They all sound like places in Canada.
His general orchestration gives it a totally dreamy 50s vibe, like something like, it reminded me for some reason of, I don't know, an Audrey Hepburn film. Like the just the soundtrack, like the whole, like the way the orchestra moves.
There is something like, Audrey Hepburn had that slightly twee, slightly sort of like endearing, kooky sort of eccentricity, and I think Joanna Newsom really plays in that. Was it like the Elfin Princess and all the different kind of internet kind of titles for like Pixie Goddess and these, because she kind of play. I mean, the artwork plays on that. The whole kind of thing of Ys being like a mystery town off the coast of France. It disappeared into the ocean, and in the front she's in medieval dress. And when she plays live, she has got like she could have been in Lord of the Rings kind of quality to her, and she kind of she does make something of that, the tweeness, the kookiness of it, and I can see how that would tie in.
If you like what you hear and you want to support this small independent podcast and keep Chris off the streets, I mean, he's so miserable right now, we need to keep him happy, then you can donate whatever you want. You can, as long as it's money. Just go to www.unsungpod.net/donate and just send us anything that you can afford.
That's one of the, it's the orchestration that really hit me with this record, and her voice as well. Apart from the squeaking, there's those squeaks, and that immediately makes me want to
all the best female singers squeak, and Cyndi Lauper had some of the best squeaks in the business.
You're going to back that up with a record recommendation there?
We'll get there. She's so unusual, clearly. I mean, this was a really well received album critically. I mean, it only got to like 134 or something like that in the charts. It's 136, something in about there. Yeah. But it critically was like really lauded, and I think deservingly so. And it's our most recent album that's really sold pretty well, which I think is actually comparatively pretty weak, even to Have One on Me. Yeah. It's not without a couple of beautiful moments, but it's not nearly as strong.
I think her audience has grown over the last sort of 10 years since this album came out. So, everybody that likes Joanna Newsom now will go out and buy that new record.
But as far as I'm aware, though,
10 years.
That whole bump for our previous catalogue hasn't manifested quite as much, in terms of, like, there's a statistic somewhere, the new album still has more sales than the others put together.
Oh, really?
I believe so. I mean, if that's wrong, I apologise to Drag City and everyone else. But it was certainly something to that effect, like it far outsold previous stuff.
I can appreciate why anybody would want to put this in a discography of great records, because it is a towering achievement. It is eccentric, and it's just, there's so much to it. And kind of ways, and in some way it's kind of similar to the DJ Shadow record we just spoke about like last week, because it evolves and it feels organic, and it takes time to get to where it really wants to go. I'm not just saying that because there's long songs on it, but it's thought out. It's like getting to a specific point. There's so many. She's got hooks for days. There's so many hooky vocal parts that most artists would kill just to have one of repeating in a chorus in a song. Yeah, and she just drops one in there like 12 minutes into a track and then abandons it. Absolutely.
And the moment I slept, I was swept up in a terrible tremor. Though no longer bereft, how I shook and I couldn't remember. And in the furthermost shade drove a murdering stake, and I cleft me right down to my center. And I shouldn't say so.
Did either of you listen to an album, straight face, is called Stormcock?
Carry on.
So is it Roy or Ray Harper? And sorry, my memory's failing here. But she cites it as a massive influence on her. Stormcock. Say it again. Apparently it's some bird that appears when it's been raining, but there's far funnier connotations. But that's like it was again, it was like 60s or 70s. In fact, I think it was the very early 70s he brought this out, and it was like a really ambitious, he's a Californian guy as well, and really ambitious kind of neo-folk, sprawling, proggy, adventurous thing. So I had to listen to it to try, and you can really hear, I mean, it's not musically similar, and it's, it's a male voice, and it's a little bit more kind of like the six tears, there's a bit more of that going on, but the progressions and the kind of, I'm going to change direction here and go for 3 minutes down this road, then come back to that road, and that that's really there, and that's kind of cool. I mean, I think she was exposed to that sort of stuff when she was quite young. Apparently she wasn't allowed to watch TV when she was younger. Yeah, and so they spent a lot of time listening to music, and that was a big part of it, and learning music. Her family were
that explains
well,
a lot, maybe.
Yeah, but and she kind of broke away from that. She found it very sort of constraining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading some of her own comments about her own records. They're quite revealing. Like, it's quite interesting to see how she appraises her own back catalogue. There was a really good quote about her. She gave up on like polyrhythms because she said they stopped being fascinating and started to feel wanky. And I mean, there's a lot of polyrhythms in this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of like, when you actually listen to the harp and you imagine the tracking that they did before all the other arrangement was in there. I mean, the recording process must have been wow. Even the click track must have been mental.
Yeah, that's
like, it's like marbles dropping down a stair.
Yeah, how do you like sit down and like map that out beforehand? I've just got no fucking idea. That's what I love. I love records that I can listen to and go, I don't know how they did that. And that's like how this feels. Like, I love a good solid fucking pop song or rock song or whatever, but like what this album has a lot of that like a lot of prog doesn't. But what's actually it's more difficult to work around is space. So much space on this record.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's so much, like there are quiet bits here and, all throughout. It's just dynamically an incredible record.
There's a couple of bits where it goes down to just one like sustained violin, just bowing, and that's beautiful. And it's like the subtlety of that and the confidence it takes to allow your music to go from so big with this full orchestral arrangement right down to that is like that's pretty dynamic given the the genre she's working in. And I think like you said, it's nice to encounter stuff, whether it's music, whether it's film, whatever it is, whether it's football, just whatever. You're watching something and you're like, how did they do that? You're just like I'm trying to think. I've got some references. I'm thinking, you hear a lot of stuff and you're like, given enough time, given enough monkeys and enough warehouses, we could probably come up with that. But there's some stuff you're just
that's taking somebody special.
That's like taking real inspiration and a convergence of just the right people and the right bit of luck and the right takes and maybe a little bit of feedback here and all these little variables that they've just come together in such a nice way. And I think this is one as well, like I said, but even the team that was assembled, that's a big part of it.
And all those lonely nights down by the river brought me bread and water in. But though I tried so hard, my little darling, I couldn't keep the night from coming in.
Going back to the lyrical thing as well, the lyrics on our other material some of them are excellent, some of them are beautiful, but I don't think they're maybe a little bit more buried. The productions are a little bit more lush, like you said. There's a lot of space in this, and so a lot of the lyrics really push through a lot more clearly. And I mean, some of the lyrics are really, really like striking. I felt like on their own when you read them just without the music playing, they're pretty astonishing.
That's it. I'm like I've never. You just mentioned that you've never been that sort of lyrical guy, but neither have I. I've always I got into riffs when I was little, and I've always been into instrumental music and stuff like that. But there are a few artists and there's a few records I can just recognise, fucking lyrical genius, basically, absolute poetry. And I just really appreciate the way they shape their words and their use of language. And this was a record that I was like,
I think again, Only Skin especially. I think there's so many moments in it. I wrote one of them down here. That she's got a kind of passage in it that goes, "And the cities we passed were a flickering wasteland, but his hand in my hand made them hale and harmless. While down in the lowlands the crops are all coming. We have everything. Life is thundering, blissful towards death in a stampede of his fumbling green gentleness." See that line, "Life is thundering, blissful towards death," is just. I mean, there's so much in that, and it's just like that really made the hair stand up in the back of my neck. And it's one of those moments in that song that's just like, I'm sold. This doesn't get old. I know it's coming, then it comes, and you're like, that's an amazing, simple, beautifully complex idea articulated in such a disarming way. I just think like I'm going to gush about this endlessly. I mean, I could go through all the songs, pulling lyrics out. I think there's some really beautiful stuff. And one of these songs is about her friend dying, like a really good friend of hers dying. I think it's Cosmia. Yeah.
Cosmia.
And there's some really, really nice moments in that once you know the actual tone of the song.
Yeah.
There's also in Only Skin, Bill Callahan does the backing vocals at the end, and they had a a reasonably brief but fairly intense relationship, apparently. And again, that adds a bit of kind of emotional weight to the song when you know the context. And you know, it's
anything with Bill Callahan is great.
Yeah, so. he's a seal of quality in a lot of ways. I think it's just, I mean, it's such a rewarding record on so many levels, albeit I recognise it's really difficult.
Yeah, it's not one that you can just go to, and it's not a car record for me. Or maybe it's a car record when you're driving home on your own, you know, and it's, I don't know, snowy or something like that.
I can honestly...
But it's not a 5V in the car, let's put a banger on.
I'd heard about it. I knew the lore around it and the general how well it had been regarded. So I did listen to it, just sitting like myself, like completely no distractions, just sitting with the stereo on in my living room. And
because if you're in your car, your battery would go dead with this record.
So I that's the way I approached it as well, because I knew I was going to be in for a bit of a fight, because it's not a record that's going to give up its secrets particularly easily.
Yeah,
you know, and I appreciate that in a lot of ways. Our voice particularly can, for me, is a bit grating sometimes, but I appreciate the way it sits in the music and the way she deploys it and how she generally uses it across the whole album. It's like a wisp almost that kind of floats above everything else.
There's a line in it where she goes, it's something like and miss your precious heart or something. She just repeats it, and that's probably the most grating point in the record. That does, that is right out there. I'll give you that. It's like a callback to her previous stuff. I once, I've probably done it multiple times. I do remember shedding a tear to this in an old navy blue Ford Fiesta in a car park in Stirling. The rest of that scenario will go unsaid.
I know we're talking about like the engineering and the sort of songwriting that must have went into this, and how it was like, how it must have been quite heavily engineered to get to where it was, but it still feels so loose.
See, I don't know if it was though, because like
Albini
was the engineer, like specifically, and I don't think he's known for overly complicating a process. It's really just a case of well placed microphones, a good instrument, and a good take. I think maybe the arrangement, you know, Van Park Dykes, Dan Parks Vans, whatever. Like maybe his arrangement, that would undoubtedly have taken a bit more. But then again, she did tour this live with an orchestra. Yeah. The videos are online. They're amazing. There's a video of her playing at the Tron in Glasgow actually with her with the full backing orchestra, and that's just astonishing. And it's live, so really, I mean, recorded properly. It's not like it took teams of people pro tooling things into place necessarily, but the right players with the right engineers, you know, and it sounds like those people were involved in the project. So I'm sure it was a difficult thing to mix and get all there's loads of variables in it, you know, loads of little changes you could make. But in terms of actually recording, I think with the quality of the people that are involved, especially her, you know, her skill as a player and as a singer, I think there's probably records we've covered that have a lot more production on them that sound like they probably had less. I'd imagine maybe the Idlewild record, there's, you know, when you're producing like a rock record and try to saturate it, this doesn't have saturation. You're not going for that. You know, there's not a throbbing bass line and synths and stuff, you know.
Yeah, like we've said already, it comes back to the space. There's a lot of space on the records, I
think Divers is much more heavily produced and is nice in places, but it definitely shows that it's been more deliberate to try and create the atmosphere rather than letting the atmosphere be created. Yeah,
I mean, personally, I've only listened to it a couple of times and I have no real opinion if it should go in or not. I mean, it's a good record. It seems like it's a very important record, but I found no connection to it personally. I listen to it, I can appreciate it for what it is, all the moving parts, everything that makes it so good, and it is good, don't get me wrong.
It's so petty for you to try and get me back for DJ Shadow like this.
I just didn't connect it. Maybe I need to spend more time with it though, and I probably will.
Yeah,
I have wanted to listen to it ever since.
Regardless,
you know?
I would encourage anybody to spend more time with it, because it is a record that, it's not just my testimony, like the critical reception for this record, it wasn't one that was getting pushed out by a big artist at the time. It was just a very, very good album that people who took the time to really invest in it grew to really love. The vast majority of them grew to really love it, and I would say that if you are able to give it the time, it does get better and better and better.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm just really excited to listen to it more. I can totally see how it stands up as her sort of flag in the sand. I'm not just a singer-songwriter, I'm going to...
God damn.
Yeah, I'm not just a singer-songwriter, I'm going to prove myself as ambitious, eccentric.
Artist, like, it's a work of art.
That's exactly what it is, and the fact that I've listened to it like through maybe 3 times now, and I'm only just touching on it. I'm quite happy to see it going because I want to listen to it a lot more.
I think it's an album that as well I think raises the bar so much on what's possible for someone as a solo artist. There's so much more can be done than strumming acoustic guitars and playing ballads, and it makes other stuff look so tedious by comparison that I think there's probably a lot of people don't thank her for it, but I mean I just think it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's hard to settle for stuff that's less in hindsight.
You can also see, I think, how it's been so influential on a lot of female artists as well.
Oh,
you know?
Definitely.
And there's no denying that.
Yeah, but she doesn't live in a vacuum. She's been influenced. I mean, the people we mentioned earlier, Kate Bush, Tori Amos, even Fiona Apple, people like that, they've definitely had an impact on Joanna Newsom.
Absolutely.
But she has taken the influences and progressed them, as opposed to a large number of solo artists who take the influences and sort of ape them and dilute them and just seek to add nothing else to that and pass it on. And I think that's why her name will probably endure.
This record has been discussed to death, I think, by everybody. And
I've got another hour if you want. I'll just start quoting lyrics.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I think you can go on endlessly because there's so much in it. Even though there's only 5 songs, and it is like, what is it, like an hour long, over an hour long, like 70 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, it's about an hour.
Doesn't feel like it.
50 minutes.
It's certainly a lot shorter than Have One On Me, put it that way.
It doesn't feel like that's that long, which is, I guess, also given some of the songs are 15 or 17 minutes long. It doesn't feel like it never drags. There's always something new. So Chris and David, I believe you are unanimous then, and that this should.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see it.
The two of us are unanimous.
Bi-animous. We're bi-animous.
Definitely.
I have no strong feelings either way. Like you.
It's not up to us. It's up to the public.
Yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable that the public will vote this thing. So anyone that's interested enough to go,
but unless they like another record
album
more, but I don't know.
Well, there's only.
I can see this as her sort of defining record.
Yeah, this will probably ride off into the sunset. I think this one with all the votes. But yeah, is there anything else you guys want to add before we finish this?
Just what's coming up next time?
Next time, I think we've got.
David, do you want to introduce this?
Yeah. No, it's your record.
Is this yours,
my
Mark?
choice.
Oh wow, it's such a blur.
We have next up. We have Slaughter the Soul by At the Gates.
By who?
At the Gates.
You're so excited. You just said it all in one.
Slaughter At the Gates. Yes.
One syllable.
But At the Gates.
At the Gates.
Yeah, At the Gates.
Amazing.
It's going to be.
Well, the reason you need to articulate that is because I didn't know anything about these guys until like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, I mean, I hold my hands up. I was pretty ignorant, but that's going to be an interesting one.
That's going to be, yeah. So yeah, go to their Facebook vote and go on their Facebook story and vote. I'm so excited about At the Gates. I can't even talk properly. Go on their Facebook page and vote for this record if you want it to go in. If you don't want it to go in, you know what to do. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe and to give us a rating and review on iTunes if you can. We'd really appreciate that. Gentlemen, it's been a total pleasure once again.
Once again.
This one was a total pleasure. DJ Shadow.
Shut up.